Aloha,
Kumbaya. Hello.
everybody.
Hello, everybody.
And I do not say aloha facetiously. My heart is just aching for all of the people in Hawaii and Maui. Lahaina is it's just amazing just how horrible that situation is. So our hearts go out to them, but so we had to give them our deference first. Now we are KQ.
I'm Ken.
I'm Kevlon. Coming back to you one more time from the mean streets of Montgomery, Alabama. If you ain't got none, you better get it.
That's
So,
right. That's right. That's right. All right.
speaking of getting it, we've been getting it these days. We get it over and over and over just because, we decide to put out what we consider to be facts. And the reason we consider them to be facts is because the definition of fact is something that's true. So we pick out things that are true and we opine on them and we get a lot of backlash. Um, just recently, one of our dear friends for many years, he shunned us basically because the idea he has. Oh, and by the way, like and subscribe, share with your friends. Anybody who is not politically astute, shoot them to us, and we'll get them straight. Just like that because this stuff matters. But this dear friend of ours, he likes to get on and he's been influenced by some propaganda, let's say, and he'll get on, and every time somebody says, "Hey, let's not go with the Republicans right now," then he wants to consider us guppies to the Democrats. And he can't just say you guys are beholden to Democrats blindly and they're hurting you, but he'll go to insulting us on top of it. So I just thought it'd be a good opportunity for us to take the time to say, hey, the reason we pick Democrats is because we got brains. You know, just so happens in this country, either a Democrat is going to win or a Republican is going to win. We're talking about national politics here. We're not Britain with multiple parties. I wish we had more parties and more choices, but hey, in this country, either the Democrats are going to run it or the Republicans are going to run it. And not just in this era, but over a past few eras that we're going to go over tonight, the Democrats have done remarkably better than the Republicans in terms of governing.
Certainly in terms of our economy. With that,
well, before you move on, let me just say this. So, what we're trying to say is, in this country, like I said, there's two choices. It's either going to be one or the other. That's going to be controlling things. The Democrats over the past, I would say, 30, 40 years, somewhere in that range, they have been consistently better than the Republicans economically for this country. It's hands down, not even close. And even though Trump likes to tout his economic statistics, we're going to show a little bit later on that they aren't really what he said they were. But and now, if you listen, the media is allowing the narrative to go forward that Biden's economy is ridiculously garbage and it's terrible. And how dare these Democrats, you know, continue to run this place as bad as they're doing. So we're going to just dip into a few stats. We're going to be objective. We're going to just, but at the same time, facts are facts, and we're just going to put out what we know to be true. So, one of my favorite politicians, Barack D. Obama, we're going to give him a little bit of spotlight right now. He's going to describe his take on how things were looking when it was handed over to him.
These are the folks whose policies helped devastate our middle class. They drove our economy into a ditch. And we got in there and put on our boots, and we pushed and we shoved, and we were sweating. And these guys were standing, watching us, and sipping on a Slurpee. And they were pointing at us saying, how come you're not pushing harder? How come you're not pushing faster? And then when we finally got the car up, and it's got a few dings and a few dents. It's got some mud on it. We're going to have to do some work on it. They point at everybody and say, look what these guys did to your car. After we got it out of the ditch. And then they got the nerve to ask for the keys back. the keys back. They don't know how to drive.
Yeah. Now, your evidence that they don't know how to drive is the fact that there was no pandemic back when Obama took over in 2008. He took over a total world economic catastrophe. And he was sitting at the helm of the United States government trying to figure out what to do. The entire time, the Republican Party was in obstruction mode magnification. They were ready to basically thwart his attempts to make things better. They said it as soon as Barack Obama got inaugurated. That night they had the caucus room conspiracy that happened, where a group of Republicans got together at a local hotel in Washington, D.C., and Mitch McConnell and all of the Republicans decided that they were going to thwart every attempt for him to do anything. But like he said, he fought and got it out of the ditch while they were standing around sipping on a Slurpee, and things were booming. If you look back when Bill Clinton was in office, before George Bush took over, the economy was booming. And the same thing.
Before Clinton took over, you had the Reagans and the Bushes.
Bush won.
Yeah,
tearing things up.
Yep. And then by the time Clinton got in, and basically we finally were in a surplus instead of a deficit, then the Republicans take over again and drive us right back into.
Looks like we got a surplus.
Yeah.
Looks like you're paying too much tax. I'm gonna fix that. So he jumps in and cuts taxes. We'll talk about tax cuts a little bit later, because that's their go-to. Every single one of them do it when they get in.
Yeah, and they primarily cut the taxes for the wealthiest among us.
Now, as we moved on into the Trump administration, same thing happened. Just like Bush 1, just like Bush 2, and just like even during Reagan's administration. But when Trump comes in, pretty much the same thing. He's riding Barack Obama's wave, and little do people know, he was touting the greatest economy ever and all of this. But as we're going to show you, we had an actual manufacturing recession occur under Donald Trump. As much as he talked about helping corporations and all these tax cuts, 1.7 trillion to the top 1% in corporations. As you can see, Washington Post, we had a mild manufacturing recession back in 2019. This was a sore spot for the economy. And this was prior to COVID. Everybody likes to blame all of Trump's economic failures on COVID, but actually they had a recession before COVID. You can see right here, you have the recession from 2018 to 2019. That's a dip. It's not in the red yet. It's not negative growth, but look at the growth when he took over. Manufacturing jobs were just on the rise. He comes in, manufacturing jobs plummet. And it happened again here. It came down there. This is all before COVID happened. So if we want to say, and the reason that jobs end up leaving and manufacturing jobs leave is because of one reason: tax policies benefit companies for taking jobs and shipping them overseas. They get tax cuts whenever they do that. That was built into Trump's tax plan. That's something that a Democrat would never propose. It doesn't matter which one you pick, but that's something that they do every time. Now, we were just talking about manufacturing, and the other big marker of the economy is GDP, gross domestic product. That's just a dollar amount that they calculate to display all of the goods and services and products that the United States is able to put on the market and how much they're worth. This is a great marker for economic indications, because it just shows the strength of the economy. It shows that there's huge demand going on, therefore there's spending capability. It's basically a marker of viability. And as you can see, where do you see things dip? You see a continuous either growth or maintaining, and overall a growth number going. But before each time that it dipped under, that's when the transition of power went from Republican to Democrat. That's just a fact. And as you can see, once Biden took over,
Wow.
then it really went up. Now you say, well, we had the recovery, the COVID recovery went on. Actually, it jumped up way beyond where we were at the point before COVID hit. So it recovered and it added to that. So this was beyond the recovery that you see happen under Joseph Biden, and that's just that stability, interest in governing, seriousness, taking government seriously, not just looking at it for personal gain, personal wealth. I didn't hire my kids and bring my kids into the government and allow them to earn 30, 40 million dollars in 600 million or something, some crazy number. My son-in-law is not going to get $2 billion when I leave office. It ain't like that. These people take government seriously, and I know Joe Biden doesn't speak with the best of them. The guy's 80 years old and he's had speech impediment all his life. I get it. But I'll take somebody who struggles a little bit with his speech and is up in age, meaning he has a pretty good bit of wisdom if he's got a good heart. I'll take their seriousness over what we get from the Republicans all day, every day, especially when you have a total criminal that we're comparing it to nowadays with Donald Trump, and we're not even going to get into that mess. But another indicator for the economy is unemployment. So if we look at what the Republicans were saying about the results of Barack Obama versus what they were saying about the results of Donald Trump, unemployment actually was better I will say the decline in unemployment. So what you want is unemployment to get smaller and smaller. So the decline in unemployment was faster under Obama as he struggled us up out of a recession and the world economy tanking because of how the U.S. handled their economy and all of the lack of regulations we had in the housing industry brought on by Republicans. But actually, after scroll down to the Obama years, but actually, Trump's policies slowed the decline in unemployment. You want unemployment to slow quickly, but if you look at what went on, whenever you look at a year that the Democrats were in office versus a year that the Republicans was in office, and you take how the media and how Republicans frame the handling of the economy, the numbers just don't bear it out. The Democrats always shepherded in low unemployment, a high decrease in unemployment, and what's our we have three numbers here. This is
one in the middle is
that's GDP growth
and then inflation.
Yeah. Yep. And so as you can see, every single year that the Democrats, so from 2008 to 2016 was Obama. Tell me where you have a chance to pick a spot where Obama's policies caused issues for America economically in terms of GDP and unemployment. All it did between the time that he got elected was to improve or to stagnate. And that is what you expect to see when you get a Democrat. The Republicans, I think that there's some situations where we would have them do something differently. For instance, we have had a pandemic. And we know the difference between how Democrats handle pandemics versus how Republicans handle pandemics. The reason you have 7% here in 2021, basically, Trump handed over a situation where the world economy went to crap due to COVID, and every single country in the world had an increase in inflation. And the United States, even at this point, in 2021, our numbers were better than all of the industrialized countries. It was high, but it was better than all in. So everybody had to revamp and get themselves ready to produce products to feed the demand that was out there. At this point, the demand was extremely high, mostly because of the recovery efforts that were put in place in terms of the vaccine, the American Rescue Plan, the things that the administration did that basically stimulated the economy to the point where everybody was buying goods and services that weren't available. And whenever that happens, you're going to have inflation. And now inflation this year is down to right at 4%, less than 4, maybe 3.5, something like that. So we're going in the right direction in terms of inflation coming out of it. Now, I want everybody to understand when Joe Biden took office what was the unemployment rate at that point, Ken?
Joe Biden took office in 2020.
6.7%. 6.7. Now, this is the result of coming out of a pandemic with a Republican in power. Everything, he was too busy worrying about downplaying the virus and keeping people on cruise ships. It wasn't like he was trying to mitigate the situation for real. Look at the Bob Woodward tapes and compare what he was saying on TV. It's pretty basic. But, the estimates are that at least 300,000 to 500,000 people died of COVID that should not have died and would not have died if the government had handled things differently in terms of messaging, keeping people being safe,
Contact tracing and yeah.
And I don't want to test. If you test, then you're gonna find more cases.
Yeah, right.
And that's gonna make you look bad. All that stuff. Now
H1N1.
Yeah. So H1N1. This pandemic happened under Obama. Just scroll kind of quickly. These were all of the steps that they took during the pandemic. I mean, there was a lot of meat and potatoes here, a lot of effort. And there was a reason why H1N1 didn't become an economic catastrophe in the United States like it did in some other countries and like COVID did here. Basically, this government took it seriously. And between April of 2009 and April of 2009, I think it was, through January, basically, the disease was put under control, didn't have any serious impact on the economy. There wasn't an administration out there lying, making up stuff, telling people it wasn't bad. Instead, the administration went full board to try to get people to get vaccinated as soon as the vaccine was produced. It got under control, and they left the WHO fully intact, ready to respond to the next pandemic until Trump got in office and basically dismantled it all, which is why a lot of reasons why we didn't lead so well when it came to COVID eradication. Now, if we look at, most recently, Trump being the last Republican president, there are some statistics that we can look at to see just how did he do. And now compare those to when Obama left and tell me, do you see anything that resembles this type of picture? I'm just going to read a few. The economy lost 2.9 million jobs. Of course, like I said, we had COVID. Granted, COVID was bad, but we didn't have that type of catastrophe under Obama with H1N1. And at the same time, the more misinformation you push into the ecosphere, the less productive an economy is going to be. Paychecks grew faster than inflation, which is good. After the tax cuts, after the tax corporate profits went up due to the tax cuts and the stock buybacks, the stock market set new records. Great. But if you look here, the federal debt held by the public went up from 14.4 trillion to 21.6 trillion. Now, I don't see one item here, but the national debt also increased by a quarter. So all of the debt that the United States accumulated from our inception, 25% of it was accumulated during the Trump years, partly because of them same tax cuts we were talking about.
So, Trump's numbers, 2021 final report from factcheck.org. Jobs down 2,876,000. Unemployment rate up 6.3%. Job openings up 25.7. That's jobs that are available. People can. Real weekly earnings down. Oh no, that's up 8.7%. Economic growth rate.
Well, when you increase the top 1% by as much as they did for those tax cuts, then you're gonna get that type of average increase.
Right.
overall.
Yeah. Right.
The one I want to jump at right here, two of them really. Manufacturing jobs, minus 154,000. This is another source showing you that we were not incorrect when we were speaking in terms of manufacturing being an issue during the Trump years. You'll never hear them say anything about it, but Obama and Clinton had no issue with that, and neither does Joe Biden. Joe Biden has a manufacturing boom going on right now with the infrastructure plan. Next to it, coal mining jobs, Mr. Cold. I'm cold blooded. He every time he turn around, he talking about clean coal and coal this and coal that. And buddy, I'm gonna take care of your coal, and you ain't gotta worry about nothing. Don't quit your job. Don't leave this city. Don't leave your house. Don't sell your house. You a coal miner. I'm gonna take care of you. Look at this number. You know, this is the way it is. And then they didn't give a darn about the dang economy.
Right.
And handgun production up 12.5%. You know, deregulate, make sure everybody can get a gun, make sure we have more guns than we have people. You know,
definitely stoke enough fear to make them want to have a gun.
Exactly.
That's how that pans out.
So I would say that everything wasn't terribly all the way 100% bad during Trump, but boy, the numbers don't match up to what they say about him in terms of his efficacy.
The best economy ever in the history of the world. And we're gonna do it again.
Let them tell it.
Right.
Matter of fact, best economy. The main economic plan that he had was tax cuts. This next article is going to show you what tax cuts do. So I'm going to jump down to where.
Yeah, that's a good.
Yeah. Go back up. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the highlighted the underlying. Right here. Yeah, just to point out here, this is the assessment that I wanted to point out to you. The underlying logic for the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, that's the act that Trump passed, was allowing companies to keep a greater share of profits that'll stimulate investments and long-term growth. And they mentioned that it'll create jobs because the more money corporations have, the more people gonna get money that work for them.
Wow.
Instead, the dominant company response was stock buybacks. Just like under George Bush, if you give companies windfall profits, the first thing that they're going to do is the CEOs, the people in charge, they're going to figure out how to get more money into their pockets, and they get paid when stocks go up.
Right.
So, of course, it makes sense for them to push for stock buybacks. They buy back their own stocks that artificially increases the value of the stock, and it does not add anything to their infrastructure or their production that's going to be viable to make them better. And so that's all that happened under the tax cuts under Trump and under George Bush. During the Clinton administration, the Obama administration, and so far under the Biden administration, you don't have tax cuts that are driving money straight to the top the way that they do. And that's why we have the most income inequality the world has ever seen right here in the United States.
Under Donald Trump, stock buybacks spiked through the roof. That's where your tax cut money went right there, straight to the top. Yeah,
it's sad.
Yeah, buddy. Stock buyback spike. Yeah. So these are all the Obama years. It was still horrible back then, $400 billion in stock buybacks. Wow. That's $1.2 trillion. How much was that tax cut that he gave?
2 trillion, 1.78.
Yeah, so they bought yachts with the rest of the money, but that's where the money went. It went straight to the stock buybacks.
Yeah, and right now under Biden, stock buybacks are still a huge problem. They've opened the floodgates. So that's one thing that Biden is trying to do is he's trying to levy a tax against stock buybacks to disincentivize companies from doing that. But of course, the Republicans are blocking that hand and feet. They really pull out the guns to make sure that stops. So it's still a problem, but until the tax policy changes and the laws affect companies that do stock buybacks just to inflate their stocks, then we're going to see the same trend.
Now, as far as them versus us type of situation, another area that they love to get at us at on our social media and Facebook and all that, share, like, subscribe, do all of that. So they love to say the criminality of the Bidens is just so horrendous, and they ride it, talking about. But the one thing that I have noticed since the onset of the accusations, there has not been any iota of proof or evidence. They claim that there's the laptop. If they had a laptop for 4 years with all of this damning information on it, why hadn't they put it out in 4 years? Because they can't, because there's no way to prove the chain of custody. I personally think the laptop came directly from Russians in Ukraine when Rudy Giuliani went over after they hacked Hunter Biden's laptop. He used to hang out with some Russian call girls back in the day, and they said it was easy for them to have access after he passed out or something. That's probably how they got some of the stuff, but then they sent it to Russia. They added in a whole bunch of other stuff, and then somehow it ends up in John Paul McIsaac's hands. He's the combined computer repair guy that couldn't pick Hunter out in the lineup. So just no evidence. All of their whistleblowers turn out to be Russian oligarchs or Chinese spies or missing or dead or not coming forward. Said they had 17 recordings. Never heard a word of them. Although we have heard some pretty interesting recordings coming from 45.
But let's just face it. I mean, if we look at the laptop in the Hunter Biden situation, first of all, Hunter Biden is not in government, so it doesn't matter. And out of all of the stuff that they keep saying about Democrats, there's, like you said, no evidence. Like if we just take one thing, the emails. Name the worst email that you saw out of that you saw being released during the 2016 election cycle. What was the worst email? Now, the Democrats got hacked and WikiLeaks put them out. Name the worst email.
It'll be tough.
Yeah. See, you don't even, if there was such a horrible thing in the emails, then people would be able to name them. I think they were criticizing one another or something. That was pretty bad, and people got a laugh out of that. And it was kind of silly stuff in there, But if you think about it, if you hack a party and the worst thing you can get is something that you can't even remember now, that means it ain't really nothing.
Right.
And so that's what they do. They did it with Benghazi. The Republicans go flaming about that. We got another example of how they do it in just a minute. As a matter of fact, this article here is just outlines a little bit of what you're dealing with. Now, if we're going to compare parties, name the last time a Democrat had something like this going on. And I'm just going to scroll down and just go through the cases. There's a January 6th insurrection case where Trump and his folks decided that they wanted to overthrow the United States government. So, either way. So they lied, got people all riled up, got our federal office attacked, the capital of the United States of America that hadn't been breached since the War of 1812. They got that thing attacked. He invited them there that day. He told them to go to the Capitol. They were standing in one place at the Ellipse, and he told them to go to the Capitol, told them that it was a fraud, lied and told them this and that. And next thing you know, the United States government is not functioning. that is being charged. It's 18, 19 people getting charged. It's incredible. Nobody has ever done anything. They sent fake electors up. They signed affidavits. They transmitted the information into Congress as if they were official. So that's a fraud on the United States of America for the purpose of deleting multiple people's votes in this country, millions of people's votes. These are the players. This is no. There's the gall to even try something like this, and this is actually something that they're charged for now. I'm sure you know. I mean, this ain't no secret. Then they took that same thing to Georgia. For those who haven't heard it, there's a tape that's over an hour long. I sat right here in this room and listened to it. And
hilarious.
I urge you, go and listen to the whole thing. Take an hour out of your life and just listen and just think about that. This is somebody who was actually in charge of the United States government at the time when he made this phone call. The gall to call a Secretary of State in Georgia and sit there and tell him that he's breaking the law if he don't do what you say. And you're the president of the United States and you threatening this guy to change the votes and find you votes. Egregious. Then he's got a classified documents case where for over a year and a half, they told him, hand over the documents, and he wouldn't do it. He just wouldn't do it. He had people outside with flashlights going around trying to look at the security cameras to make sure that they can't be seen, moving the documents and all. I mean, you name it. This is going to be ridiculous. And then the last indictment was where his own attorney went to jail was sentenced for 2 years for paying money to a porn star for Donald Trump during the campaign and
using campaign funds to do
campaign funds and misrepresenting the funds and getting tax breaks on the funds and everything else. So he goes to jail, and this is what Trump is up for. And in Michael Cohen's sentencing document, they listed Trump as individual one, as the one who was the one that Michael Cohen was doing the work on behalf of. So obviously, if you don't charge the guy who the work was being done on behalf of, and you don't put the guy who did the work in jail, then of course, eventually you're gonna have to charge the guy who was on behalf of too. So this one is a slam dunk. Now, name the last time that a Democrat had anything like this. And see, people sit here and tell me that I'm crazy for supporting a Democrat and they ain't did nothing for black people and all of this. Buddy, if you're taking the whole United States economy down over and over, you ain't doing nothing for black people either. If you can't even take 2 steps without committing a crime, you ain't doing nothing for black people either. If you're insulting black people over and over, Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss, you attack 2 election workers in Georgia in Fulton County that happens to be majority black. You attack 2 individual citizens and lie on them and compare them to drug dealers and all this kind of stuff, and go out to your rallies and yell and scream about how horrible they are to the point that they get death threats and the FBI has to contact them and urge them to move out of their own house. And you got people standing outside of their house prior to that, beating on the door, screaming, yelling, I'm gonna kill you, I'm gonna kill you. That came down from a president of the United States. See, you don't have this type of stuff going on with Democrats. Democrats will kick somebody out of the party who's a comedian, who used to be a comedian and got on a plane on his way home from a USO tour where they were doing jokes in front of our troops in the field. And he does a joke where he's putting his hand up to the breast of a woman who's asleep. And the Democrats drummed him out, So don't sit here and tell me that we'll tolerate this kind of malfeasance against our government. This is ridiculous. This is not even close. And this guy is still the #1 Republican candidate for president in the United States. Now, when Obama was in office, there was a different type of scandal. It was a scandal nonetheless. We're just going to play it for you just to give you a glimpse of what Obama was up to, because they're all the parties the same, 2 legs of the same pair of pants, right?
The president came out addressing reporters on Thursday, and he was wearing this tan suit.
President President Obama's decision to wear a light tan suit at yesterday's news conference. He was wearing a tan suit.
Light tan suit.
I think it was shocking to a lot of people. Is this an effort to make him look warmer?
No way I think any of us can excuse what the president did yesterday. I mean, and then for him to walk out, I'm not trying to be trivial here, but in a light suit, light tan suit.
Also known as Tangate.
Tan suit, and how the tan suit made him look unpresidential.
Whoever talked him into going into a tan suit, they're so desperate because of these low poll numbers, they're willing to do anything.
Oh. Full screen.
Oh,
The tan suit made him look unpresidential.
it's over. Yes, sir.
Now that was actual news media, national news media, zeroing in, going ballistic over and over and over about a tan suit, and you have all of this stuff going on. Of course, the media should be talking about it. Of course, the media should be zeroing in on Trump. He's up for 92 counts in 4 different indictments.
In 4 different places all around the country that
And he can get sentenced to jail and be in the jail for the rest of his life if even one of those counts go through. He's got 90 something counts. He's caught red-handed in all of them.
now to show you the comparison. It's right here. Wow. Let's get it.
He passed a tax bill for the super wealthy and corporations that actually provided incentives for companies to move jobs overseas. Folks, manufacturing is the backbone of America. But we're in a manufacturing recession because of Donald Trump, even before the COVID virus hit.
So even before the COVID virus hit, we were in a manufacturing recession. So it's not close. He brags about how great he is. He gets out here and trashes people. He, like Dave Chappelle says, he rides the wave of this country that already exists. There's so many different tendencies that the American people have that all you have to do is tap into them and then you can get support and all of that. But when the rubber meets the road and you look at the actual work that was done, the actual production that happened, the actual stability that was provided, it's not close between the Democrats and the Republicans. Look back at the last set of Republican administrations. At the end of their administration, when they handed it over to a Democrat, we were always in the tank. We were always struggling. We were always in the midst of crisis. As soon as they handed over to a Democrat, things stabilized. And all I can hear from my black brethren and sisterin is Democrats ain't doing nothing for you. Doggone it, while the economy was in the tank, the Republicans wasn't doing anything for you or nobody else. As a matter of fact, we were walking backwards. We were moonwalking.
Yeah. So I think we've taken up a little bit too much of your time tonight, this evening. We're going to get this one uploaded. And once again, like, subscribe, love, share.
Tell your friends.
Yep. Tell your friends, tell everybody. It's KQ.
Comment. If you disagree, put it in there. We'll talk to you. We'll figure out what the heck's going on. Maybe, I don't know everything. But what I do know, I know.